Elite violinist forced a simple woman to play the hardest piece. He didn't know she was a genius. She was laughed at just for wearing a simple dress. Naomi Cole walked into the Riverdale Music Gala wearing a dark blue gown. It had no shine, no glitter. Her hair was packed in a neat ponytail. No makeup. Just a silver ring on her finger. People looked at her like she didn't belong there. Someone even forced her to play the violin, just to make fun of her. A rich woman pointed at her and laughed loudly. "She probably only knows children's songs," she said. Before we proceed, drop a comment and let us know which city you're watching from. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a story. A young violinist smirked and stretched out his violin. "Here, try playing something difficult, if you dare." People started gathering. Someone pulled out a phone and went live on social media. "This will be fun," he said. Everyone waited for Naomi to fail. But just 30 seconds later, the whole ballroom went silent. Naomi was playing one of the hardest violin pieces in the world, Paganini's Caprice. The room froze. Her eyes were calm. Her breathing steady. Her fingers moved like magic. Just minutes before that moment, nobody had noticed her. The gala was full of stars, famous musicians, rich guests, photographers. Naomi came with her friend Leo, a quiet man she used to work with at a music publishing company. He didn't talk much. Naomi also didn't say much. She just stood near the bar, holding her glass of water, listening to others argue about music. Her dress was different from everyone else's. No sparkles, no designer name. She liked it that way. She had learned to keep her life quiet and simple. But not everyone liked that. Veronica Steele, a rich woman in a gold sequin gown, spotted her and called out, "You! What are you doing here, sweetheart?" Naomi looked up. "I'm a guest," she said politely. Veronica laughed so loud it echoed. "A guest? In that dress?" She turned to the others. "She looks like she came here to clean up." A few people laughed. One man added, "Maybe she's here to wash dishes." More laughter followed. Naomi just stood still. She placed her glass gently on the table and adjusted her bag. Her face didn't change, but inside, something was waking up. They thought they were funny. But they had no idea who they were talking to. The crowd around Naomi kept growing. Everyone wanted to see what was happening. Another woman stepped forward. She wore a tight black dress and had her hair pulled into a high bun. Her name was Carla Grant, and she owned an art gallery in New York. She was known for acting like she was better than everyone else. "Honestly, dear," Carla said, looking Naomi up and down. "You're an eyesore. This is a gala, not a second-hand shop." She waved her hand at Naomi's dark blue gown. "Did you think nobody would notice you standing there looking like a maid?" A few people around her nodded. Some even took pictures, hoping to post them online as a joke. Naomi stood quietly, her fingers touching the strap of her bag. She didn't argue. She didn't fight back. Her face stayed calm. Carla turned to Veronica and laughed. "Some people really don't know their place." The insults kept coming. Phones flashed. Laughter grew louder. Veronica stepped even closer. Her perfume was strong and heavy. She smiled, but it wasn't kind. "What's your name, dear?" she asked in a fake sweet voice. "Don't be shy." Naomi looked her in the eye. "Naomi Cole," she said, clearly. Veronica laughed louder. "Naomi Cole? Never heard of you. You sound like a nobody." A younger woman in a tight red dress joined in. She probably just walked in from the subway. The group laughed harder, their voices sharp. But Naomi didn't flinch. She gently touched the side of her bag again. A quiet reminder to herself, stay calm. She had heard this kind of thing before. Different rooms. Different people. Same kind of hate. Growing up, her parents had taught her how to handle people like this. Her father, a powerful man in the business world, showed her how to stay strong without raising her voice. Her mother always said, "Let your actions speak louder than words." So that's what Naomi did. She didn't explain her past. She didn't mention Juilliard. She didn't say that she used to play violin in some of the biggest halls in the country. Let them laugh. Let them assume. Because soon, they would learn the truth for themselves. While the crowd kept laughing, another man walked in, holding a glass of champagne. He wore a fancy gray suit with a bright green tie and a smug look on his face. His name was Gerald Blake, a music critic known for writing rude reviews. He looked at Naomi like she was a joke. He raised his glass toward her like he was making a toast. "Look at her holding that bag like it's her last hope," he said loudly. "What's inside, darling? Your bus fare home?" The crowd burst into laughter. Some people even clapped like Gerald had told a great joke. He walked closer to Naomi, his breath heavy with alcohol. "Sweetheart, you're out of your league. Go back to wherever you came from." Naomi didn't react. Her eyes met his. Calm. Strong. She didn't blink. She didn't have to say anything. Her silence was more powerful than all their noise. Gerald turned back to the crowd. "See," he said. "She knows she doesn't belong." A few people took photos of her face, hoping to catch her looking embarrassed. But Naomi just stood there like a rock. Then, the young violinist who had joked earlier stepped forward again. His name was Eli Carter. He was in his mid-20s, wearing a perfectly tailored suit, his hair slicked back like a movie star. He held his expensive violin in one hand. "Hey Naomi," Eli said, smiling wide. "Why don't you play something for us?" The crowd cheered. Naomi shook her head. "No, thank you. I'm just here to listen." But Veronica clapped her hands, pretending to be excited. "Oh come on. Give us a show." Someone else shouted, "Play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star." The laughter came again, stronger than before. Just then, a woman in a golden jumpsuit pushed to the front. Her heels clicked loudly on the floor. She was Vanessa Quinn, a popular influencer with millions of followers. She always filmed drama to post online. She held her phone up and started recording. "Oh, this is perfect," Vanessa said, grinning. "Look at her, standing there like a deer in headlights." "Sweetie, who let you in here? Did you sneak past security?" Naomi didn't say a word. But her fingers paused on the strap of her bag. And her eyes? They were no longer calm. They were focused. The crowd was ready for a show, or rather, a joke. Vanessa Quinn kept filming, walking in circles around Naomi. "This is going straight to my story," she said, laughing. #GalaFail. More people pulled out their phones. A few were already live streaming. Some just stood back and smiled, waiting to see Naomi crash. Eli Carter stepped closer and offered the violin again. "Come on," he said with a smirk. "Unless you're scared." "It's okay, not everyone's good enough." People started chanting. "Go on. Don't chicken out. Let her try." Naomi stood still. She looked at the violin in his hand, like it was something she had not touched in years, but still knew by heart. Her friend Leo, standing nearby, leaned in and whispered, "Naomi, you don't have to do this." But it was too late. The crowd smelled blood. They were already recording, already mocking. A man in the back yelled, "I'm live streaming this. Get ready for the worst violin solo of the year." Naomi's eyes moved from person to person. Their faces full of pride. Laughing at her blue dress, her ponytail, her silence. And something inside her shifted. Not fear. Not anger. Something else. Peace. But strong. Firm. Ready. She looked up at Eli and nodded once. "All right," she said quietly. Her voice barely above a whisper. That whisper felt louder than their shouts. The crowd roared. "She's really going to try." Veronica clapped. "This is why I love these galas, free entertainment." Eli grinned. "Go ahead, Naomi. Impress us." Naomi took the violin gently. She didn't rush. Her fingers brushed the polished wood like it was something sacred. She adjusted the chin rest slowly. Carefully. Respectfully. Nobody noticed how steady her hands were. They were top busy laughing. Too busy waiting for her to mess up. Then a man in a white tuxedo stepped forward. His hair was dyed bright blonde. He was Ronald Finch, a flashy Broadway producer known for bullying people at public events. He clapped his hands. "Oh darling, my heart is breaking," he said dramatically. "Look at you with that sad little violin. Are you going to cry?" He turned to the crowd. "Should we give her a round of pity applause?" The crowd laughed and clapped slowly, mocking her. But Naomi? She just tightened her grip on the bow. Her silence was her answer. The slow clapping and fake applause filled the ballroom. Some people even booed, expecting Naomi to quit. But she stood tall, the violin in one hand, the bow in the other. Her dark blue gown swayed gently as she stepped toward the front of the room, a small space cleared for performances near the grand piano. No spotlight. No stage. Just Naomi, surrounded by people who were waiting to laugh. Veronica leaned toward Vanessa and whispered, "This is going to be priceless." Vanessa grinned, her phone still recording. She's about to embarrass herself. Even a waiter passing by stopped and stared, holding his tray with wide eyes. Just as Naomi raised the violin to her chin, a teenage girl pushed to the front. She wore a glittering tiara and a designer gown. Her name was Savannah Lee, daughter of a famous conductor. Everyone knew her, and her loud mouth. She pointed at Naomi and laughed. "Oh my God! Is she actually going to play?" Then, even louder, "This is like watching a dog try to dance." Her group of friends giggled beside her, like it was rehearsed. "Look at her shoes," Savannah added. "Did she dig those out of a trash can?" Then she flicked her hand at Naomi's dress. "You're a walking charity case. Just stop now before you embarrass yourself." Naomi's eyes met Savannah's for a second. Calm. But strong. She didn't speak. She didn't blink. She just turned her head back to her instrument and began adjusting the violin strings with care. In the corner of the room, an older woman sitting at a table leaned forward. She was Professor Eleanor Price, a retired music teacher who had once taught at Juilliard. She looked closely at Naomi's posture, her fingers, the way she held the violin. "That's not a beginner's grip," she whispered to her younger companion. The girl beside her frowned. "Who is she?" Eleanor's hand trembled as she held a folded gala program. Naomi's name wasn't on it. "They have no idea," the professor whispered. But the rest of the crowd didn't notice. They were still laughing, still recording, still chanting. "Twinkle. Twinkle. Play something." Naomi closed her eyes for just 1 second. In her mind, she was back in a small practice room. Her old teacher's voice echoed gently. "Feel the music, Naomi. Let it carry you." Naomi opened her eyes slowly. The noise of the crowd returned, laughter, phones recording, people shouting. She looked directly at Eli Carter, the young violinist who had handed her the instrument. "What should I play?" she asked softly, her voice calm but clear. Eli blinked, surprised that she was still standing there. He looked around at his friends, clearly enjoying the attention. Then he smiled like he had just thought of the perfect joke. "Oh, you're serious," he said, laughing. "All right then. Let's make it interesting." He paused, just to build the moment. Then, with a grin, he said, "Try Paganini's Caprice. You know, the hardest violin piece in the world." The crowd exploded with laughter. It echoed off the chandeliers. Veronica clapped her hands in delight. "Oh, this I must see." Vanessa zoomed in with her phone. "This is going viral." Even Naomi's friend, Leo, looked nervous now. His hands were clenched at his sides. His eyes moved from Naomi to the people around her, unsure of what she was about to do. But Naomi didn't panic. She simply nodded once. "Okay." The crowd laughed again. People shouted. "Good luck with that. She's going to mess it up. She's dreaming." Naomi didn't answer. She lifted the bow, her hand perfectly steady, and placed it gently on the strings. At first, people were still talking and laughing, expecting to hear squeaky notes or clumsy sounds. But then, the first note came. Sharp. Clear. Clean. Like a knife cutting through noise. The room didn't go silent all at once. It was slow. The laughter died down. The whispers stopped. The phones kept recording, but no one was smiling now. Note after note, Naomi played with perfect control. Her fingers moved across the violin like they had never forgotten the music. Her hands were fast, confident, alive. The opening of Paganini's Caprice flowed out of her like water. At the back of the room, an older violinist named Victor Hale sat up suddenly. His eyes narrowed. He leaned forward in his chair. Another man, standing nearby, dropped his wine glass. It crashed on the floor, but no one turned. He was Michael Reed, a well-known talent scout. His face turned pale. He whispered to his assistant, "That's Naomi Cole. I saw her play at Juilliard. She was untouchable." He watched her fingers dance like he was seeing a ghost. Naomi kept playing. The music wasn't just beautiful, it was powerful. Sharp. Unstoppable. Every note was a message. The people who had laughed were now frozen. She moved through the most difficult parts of the piece with ease, fast runs, double stops, left-hand pizzicato, things only top violinists could do. But Naomi played them like she was breathing. She didn't show off. She didn't try to impress. She was just doing what she knew. Phones slowly lowered. Some people forgot they were recording. They were too stunned. At the back, Victor Hale, the old violinist, was leaning forward, gripping the arms of his chair. His eyes were full of emotion. In the middle of the room, Michael Reed, the talent scout, was whispering again. She disappeared after her final Juilliard recital. "No one knew where she went," he said. "But I never forgot her playing." Around him, more guests began whispering. Faces turned from mocking to shocked. Meanwhile, Naomi's fingers kept moving like lightning. Her face was calm. Her eyes were soft. But the music was filled with strength, pain, memory, and pride. Veronica's smile disappeared. Vanessa slowly lowered her phone. Her mouth was slightly open. Eli Carter's arms dropped to his sides. His face turned pale. He couldn't believe it. Naomi wasn't just playing the hardest piece in the world. She was owning it. And she didn't need lights or a stage to do it. In the front row, a woman wearing pearls, Beatrice Klein, a former symphony board member, stared in disbelief. She whispered to her husband, "I remember that technique. We funded her scholarship when she was 17. She was a prodigy. We thought she gave it all up." Beatrice's eyes filled with guilt and awe. She'd assumed Naomi had faded away. But Naomi hadn't disappeared. She had chosen peace. And now, here she was, taking back every room that ever doubted her. The final section of the piece was coming. It was the part that made even professionals nervous. But Naomi's hands didn't shake. She didn't play like she had something to prove. She played like she already knew who she was. And finally, the last note came. Strong. Clear. Hanging in the air like a breath no one wanted to let go. For a moment, the whole room was silent. No one clapped. No one spoke. It was like they had all forgotten how to move. Naomi stood still, the violin resting at her side, the bow hanging gently in her hand. Her dark blue gown caught the light, her ponytail still neat. Her breathing steady. Then, from the back of the room, Victor Hale stood up. He clapped slowly. His hands shook, but his eyes were shining. Others joined in, unsure at first, then louder. In seconds, the ballroom was filled with applause. Real applause. Strong. Respectful. Clara Lynn, a famous violinist seated in the front, wiped tears from her eyes and clapped with all her heart. The event host, a tall man in a clean navy suit, rushed toward the stage, stunned. "Who are you?" he asked. "How did you just do that?" Naomi didn't step forward. She didn't brag. She simply handed the violin back to Eli Carter. He took it slowly, like he was in shock. "I'm Naomi Cole," she said. Her voice was calm. "I was a scholarship student at Juilliard. I left the stage for family reasons." She looked around the room, the same room that had mocked her minutes ago. "Tonight, I just wanted to remind people," she paused, "art is meant to lift people up, not tear them down." The clapping continued, but now it felt different. Softer. Almost apologetic. Veronica Steele stood frozen, her eyes down. Her diamonds didn't shine as bright anymore. Eli looked at the floor, ashamed. Some guests walked toward Naomi. "I didn't know," one man said, avoiding her gaze. "You were incredible," a woman added, holding out her phone like she wanted a selfie. Naomi smiled politely, but didn't stay. She walked off the stage the same way she came, quiet, graceful, sure of herself. Leo met her near the bar, his eyes wide. "Naomi, that was unreal," he said. "Why didn't you ever tell me you could play like that?" Naomi adjusted her bag and smiled gently. "Didn't seem important." As they headed for the door, a young server walked past, carrying a tray of glasses. Her name tag read Maria. She paused beside Naomi. "I saw you play," she said in a soft voice. "My brother plays violin too. You made me believe he can do this someday." Naomi's eyes softened. She touched Maria's arm. "Tell him not to stop playing." Then a tall, older man in a dark suit stepped through the crowd. His name was Daniel Cole. He smiled as he approached. "Naomi," he said gently. "Ready to go?" She nodded. "Yeah, Daniel. Let's go." People stepped aside as they walked out. Whispers filled the room. "Wait. Daniel Cole? Her husband? She's that Naomi Cole?" But Naomi didn't turn back. She walked with Daniel, steady and quiet, her silence louder than applause. Clips of her performance went viral. Millions watched the woman in the blue dress who shut down a ballroom with music. Veronica was asked to resign from her charity board. Eli Carter was dropped by his agent. Vanessa's brand deals disappeared. Savannah Lee's name was removed from an upcoming music festival. But Naomi? She was at home. A quiet apartment in Brooklyn. Drinking tea at her kitchen table. Daniel sat nearby, reading the news. They're still talking about you, he said, looking up. Naomi smiled softly. Let them talk. A week later, an envelope arrived, from the New York Symphony. It said, "We would be honored to have you perform with us." Naomi read it twice. Then folded it and placed it in a drawer beside an old photo of her at 17, playing in her Juilliard recital. She didn't need the spotlight again. She had already said what she needed to say. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you're yet to do so. See you in my next video. Bye.